Yeah.
From Elsinore.
Alright, so for those of you that don't know me, my name's Barry. I've been jumping for about 13 years. It's pretty much my job to make skydivers. That's what I do. Right? Try to make safe skydivers as well. But, well, that was before your time, Mike, so. So, show of hands. Who here has been hurt on landing? Alright, it's a lot of people. I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm going to tell you my little story. Alright, I had a little voice inside my head the time I got hurt. Alright, I tweaked my foot. I ended up breaking some of the bones right about here. But it was just like one of those days where you have a 2,000-foot cloud layer, right, and everybody wants to jump, so we're doing these low hop and pops. I was jumping in, I think, a 96 or an 84 velocity at the time, downwind, in the rain, barefoot. And it was about a 10-mile-an-hour downwind, too. Yeah, smart move. All right, but I knew at the time, I'm like, this probably isn't the smartest idea in the world. Right? And I remember thinking to myself, when I came in, I caught a hole and ended up just kind of tweaking my foot. So I think it's important for us as Canopy pilots, if you know that you're about ready to do something stupid, it probably is. So listen to that little voice in your head, okay? The more experience you tend to get, the louder the voice is going to get, right? Because, you know, what was Andy Malchiotti in that article? The longer you stay in the sport, the more you realize that people out there trying to kill you, all right? So the novice jumpers don't really understand some of the things that we can have problems with. And it takes some time in the sport. Just because you did 200 jumps in a year doesn't mean you really know what's going on. So I think time in the sport is just as important. So next thing, has anybody seen this? Alright, I'm going to pass some of these things out if you guys want to pass them down. If you have not seen this, I highly recommend you fill one of these things out. Okay, it's a Canopy risk quotient. It's on the USPA website. You can look it up. It's kind of interesting, but they break it out just to see how scary you are and make you realize that, you know, there's things that we can improve upon. So the first part is experience and currency. How many jumps have you done? How many jumps this year? How many jumps this past month? And how many jumps at your current DZ that you've been jumping at? Canopy information. Okay, wing loading is obviously important. The higher the wing loading, the more aggressive things are going to be. Canopy square footage. Small canopies, fast. Canopy design. You know, everything from squares to cross brace canopies. And then number of jumps on your current canopy. And then the third part is training and experience. All right, USPA has come out with the B license requirement for your 50 jumps to do the canopy course. I'd like to think that because since they've done this, some of those canopy fatalities have came down over the past year. Who knows? We'll kind of see where it goes. I know it's kind of in transition. They may make some changes this year. But how many canopy lessons have you done? Structured canopy lessons, and also competitions. And then how many hop and pops have you done dedicated solely to canopy control? And then on the bottom here, give yourself 1 point for each maneuver you have not performed on your canopy in the last 50 jumps. So they have brake turn, flare turn, reverse turn. A lot of people probably don't even know what that is. I didn't know what it was when they started initiating this stuff. So, riser flare, either up high or on landing. Extended glide, which is pretty much using your rear risers to make you get back from a long spot. Flying a pre-planned pattern. Obviously, you should be doing that every time. Accuracy within 2 meters. So those Americans, dumb Americans, that's 6 feet. Right? Crosswind and downwind landings. Intentionally. Right? Done safely. There's a time and place to do that stuff. But it's important to actually do some of this because when you need to and you're landing off field, you're going to want to know how to do it. And you're trying to put it down somewhere tight. Induced speed landing, pretty much kind of front riser, double fronts, or a front riser turn, that sort of thing. So pretty much you can go through here, it'll give you a score, and then the other sheet breaks down that score. I think it has like comfortable, like medium, and then like high risk, and then scary. So just kind of think about that stuff. If you haven't filled one out, fill it out. It could be a little bit on the lightning side. So another question that a lot of people ask is, when should I downsize? Okay. One of the biggest myths I have ever heard come out of somebody's mouth is, I need to get a smaller canopy to get higher performance. Okay? That is going to get you hurt. If we look at somebody like Mike Whitlock, who is swooping the piss out of a Sabre 2 120, better than most people under a smaller cross-brace high-performance canopy, that impresses me, because he's doing everything. He's going crosswind, downwind, a lot of hop and pops. He really impresses me. Sorry, DK. You know, I mean, DK impresses me, but Mike Whitlock, you know, I think for a lot of the newer jumpers should really kind of look at him and see what he's doing, right? DK didn't get to where he was by just getting on a whatever size canopy you jump, 73. Yeah. Okay. There's a progression to do this, and small canopies are all cool and whatnot, but I've never heard somebody land and getting carted off in an ambulance and said, I wish I had a smaller canopy for that landing. Never once have I heard it. Okay? So it's really, you know, having a bigger canopy and understanding how to do it properly is going to help you when you start getting under the smaller canopies. So my answer to that is, when should you downsize? Is when you can do all this stuff and put that canopy anywhere you need to. Okay? So that's my recommendation on it. So, another thing. I had a friend of mine that got killed down in Sebastian after a low turn. I think he had about 1,500 jumps. And myself and Sean Foley were sitting on the steps just kind of talking. I just don't get it sometimes. If you're low, stop turning. It's not hard. Right? Take it crosswind, take it whatever. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that kind of kills people. So what we kind of thought about is, our brains are really like computers, right? So let's take a look at a novice jumper and what their computer looks like, right? So it's one of old school Macs. When you start adding in all these applications, the thing's going to crash. And typically, when you hear people getting hurt, it's usually something that spikes in their brain, whether it's an obstacle, another canopy, wind shift, or even altitude changes that you're not ready for. So typically when people get hurt, their brain is overpowered and they make a mistake, unintentional low turn or a panic turn or something of that nature. Okay? Now if we look at a swooper's brain, there we go. Okay? We have a higher processing speed because our brains need to process faster because things are happening faster under smaller canopies. So I want you to just think about that, because if we look at somebody like Shane McLafferty, who, if you guys don't know Shane, he ended up having a cutaway and chopped over there, over by Grand, and then chased his main down. And he wasn't current under that reserve, not that most people are, but he had never flown this size reserve before or anything like that. So basically what he did, he tried to put it down in a small residential area and overshot the target and went feet first into a wall. Right? Basically pulverized his ankle. So he won't be jumping for a while. So if you have something, whether it's you know, a wind shift or something out of the ordinary, stop. Forget about doing that high performance hook turn or whatever it may be, and just go back to basics. Slow that processing speed down. Get rid of all those applications that are going on in your brain so you can kind of put that canopy down safely. Because that's your number one priority, is to land that canopy safely. Correct? Alright. Alright, so let's take a look. I want to review the landing area. A couple of things. This is the one from last year. We obviously have the main landing area here. It's a 200 jump minimum. And then student landing area, people with under 200 jumps landing here. So this should be not news to most of you, but just to clarify, because we do see a lot of people doing this, right? And we don't want canopy collisions. What's that?
Outside boys.
Okay. So if the winds are coming off the lake, okay, we're landing towards the lake, right-hand pattern in the main landing area. And then also for the student landing area, right-hand pattern going in that way. One of the things I want to be real specific about is what I see a lot of novice jumpers doing, and it drives me a little bit insane, is students will come down because they don't want to walk. Okay, so they're going to come down, straight across here, go south of that tetrahedron, and cut right through the middle of that landing area. That's one of the most dangerous things you can do. Okay? Because you're really increasing the likelihood of a canopy collision there. Okay? So really, if you're going to land out there, be safe, stay north of the tetrahedron, and don't cut through the middle of that pattern. Right? Do not sacrifice accuracy for safety. Right? Land safe. Okay, now winds are coming out of the south. We're going to do left-hand pattern towards the buildings. Obviously, we know there is a safety line there. Right? Do not cross the safety line, otherwise you're going to be banished to never land over here. Okay? And then for the people that are landing over here, it's going to be a mirror image. So if winds coming off the lake, it's going to be left-hand pattern towards the north. And then if we're going towards the south, it's going to be right-hand pattern, so we're staying away from that main runway. Yeah? Now, the question comes up, what happens if the winds are out of the east or out of the west? And it's usually chaos when this happens because it doesn't happen that often. But what we've decided to do, if winds are out of the west, we're going to do a right-hand pattern towards the west. Now, when do we do this? I think it should be kind of the first person setting that pattern down. If it's windy enough where you don't feel comfortable taking that crosswind landing, obviously going north and south is better, because we have more room for error. But if it's windy enough and that first person sets it right-hand pattern to the west, stick with it. Yeah? Because what this does, if we go here and then there and then there, if for some reason we are low and we need to bail out, and because we're going to overshoot and maybe hit the runway, we can at least kind of go crosswind and we're not dealing with obstacles. Right? So the opposite is going to be true. It's going to be a mirror image pattern. If you're a student and you're landing over there, it's going to be a right-hand pattern to the west. Okay? So if winds are coming out of the east, it's going to be a right-hand pattern towards the east. So we're still kind of going over the buildings, and if we need to, we can bail out, because if we're going to hit that little racetrack over there, at least you got some room to kind of run away with it. And then the opposite is true. It's coming out of the east. It's going to be a left-hand pattern for the student landing area. Yes, sir?
I think when this map was made also, I think that's when the fence wasn't there.
Right. And that's why for students and stuff, you know, there is that gap. And I have a feeling they're going to put in more fence there, so it's only going to probably get worse, if I had to venture a guess. But, you know, with students, you got the tetrahedron somewhere right around here, and then there's that gap. So I would kind of maybe split that gap if you can. So if you do overshoot. But we also have this whole big parking lot over here. Nothing says you can't land there. Technically, it's not our property, but safety first. You don't want to be running into any fences. Okay? Yeah.
Maine, this is an old part, is it?
Yeah, it's 200. Is that your question? Yeah, 200 jumps.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Do you have a shark that can change it?
Yeah, get some white out. Cool. So everybody clear on that?
Very nice question.
Mm-hmm. You just did?
Yeah.
Okay.
A few days ago, or last week or something like that, there was the winds were out of the north, so we were out of the south. So we were supposed to be landing away from the lake.
Right.
And,
towards the buildings.
Towards the buildings.
Yeah.
But the first 3 to 4 people had set it basically for a downwind landing. So at that point, do you follow the people that were essentially landing downwind, or do you? You're
supposed to, but that's why it's important to really understand who you're jumping with. So if that first person's an idiot, you know what I'd do? Land over here. If you realize that you're going to be going against the pattern, I would go somewhere else. Whenever I see this, I don't even think about going anywhere near that main landing area. Lalo? Yeah. So, you know, when in doubt, just put it down somewhere else. We got a van. Sometimes it works. All right. Okay. Okay. So can you pop up that video? Oh. Well, is it go to it? Okay. So for those of you
There's
that
one more
haven't seen
question.
this- oh, okay. A question?
Yeah. What about, like, okay, let's say the wind's coming out of the south and first person sets the right pattern, right? And then the wind drifts opposite. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's one of those things because Elsinore, the winds can shift literally from the first person to the third person down. But really, if that first person sets it, you should really be prepared to follow it. You know?
Or land far away, like
Or land somewhere else.
You should be able
Someone
to
lands
land
downwind,
downwind
you
if
have
you
to land
can.
downwind.
And this is why,
Or land
if you're
here.
afraid to land your canopy downwind, guess what?
Shouldn't be jumping at
Shouldn't be jumping it. Yeah?
Very.
Yeah.
Question as far as the visual you just had up of the landing area.
Yeah.
You were saying if they're out of the west, we're doing a right-hand pattern into the main.
No, left hand.
Left.
Yeah.
But there's
I was
there's
confused.
students too.
Yeah,
They did have to
the
overshoot
students
that
are going to be a mirror
before.
image pattern. So it would be like this. You know what I'm
So we
saying?
would go left.
Because if you're landing towards the runway and you need to bail out,
Okay.
you have that extra space to do so, and you're not dealing with obstacles. Because if we were in here and we did one of these patterns, if you're coming in now, if you need to cut it off, you got the otter or buildings or whatever the case may be. This gives you a little bit more
So it'll be a left into
into the main. Yeah, left-hand pattern. But for the students, it's going to be a right-hand pattern. Yeah? Okay. I know it's kind of confusing, but fortunately for us, it doesn't happen often. Alright? Okay, cool. So, for those of you that have not seen this video, it's awesome. So, just because we got Dust Devil season coming up, I want you to understand, for those of you that don't know what a Dust Devil will do to a canopy, this is what it's going to do. Let me tell you a quick story. I was down in Florida jumping into land, and I hit something similar to this. I don't know what it was because it was over grass. It wasn't over any buildings, no obstacles. About 700 feet, my canopy just folded in half and reinflated at 300 feet. It was so loud and violent that when it opened, people thought I actually opened at 300 feet because they didn't see what happened.
Wasn't it invisible giant?
Rarefied air molecules is what I like to call them. Okay, but when dust devils are around, just be real careful. I mean, get that canopy on the ground as safely and quickly as you can. Stay away from them. Keep an eye out for them because they are difficult to spot unless you really know what you're looking for. So for you younger jumpers, if you start to see me sitting on the ground, there's probably a reason because that scared the hell out of me.
Air gremlin.
Yeah. Okay, so spot if you would. I think this is somewhere either in Arizona or Texas.
Look how windy it is.
Yeah. You can actually see the dust devil coming.
Oh.
Blair, pull your strings.
Oh.
That's pretty much what happened to me.
God.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
You think that was a dust devil?
Yep. Because you can actually, if you look at the video closely, you can see it starting to come that way from the right side of the screen over to the left. So, any questions, comments, complaints, concerns?
Good thing it's a crossroads kid.
Yeah.
78.
Cool? Anything? Nothing? DK?
If you think
Questions?
if you have any questions in your mind, if you're a student or a
we get the
person
light?
with 1,000 jumps or 500 jumps, if you think any question in your mind, if it's a little bit too windy, don't jump. Don't jump. Like there's always tomorrow, tomorrow whatever. Like if you have any question in your mind, you should never jump.
Well, that's like that little voice inside your head. You're a newer jumper when you see people with thousands of jumps sitting on the ground. Their voice is very loud in their head. So listen to their voice because you can probably hear it.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you guys think I'm not jumping today? I was not jumping today. I was scared.
Any other questions? All right. Somebody give me a beer.